Hello and welcome to BBC News. Reports from eastern Ukraine say a huge chemical plant in the town of Severodonetsk, where hundreds of people have been sheltering, is on fire. The governor of the region says the Azot plant had come under intense bombardment, but is still under Ukrainian control. Well, the fierce fighting comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says his troops are now running low on ammunition and shells in particular as they try to repel Russian invaders in the east. And he's appealed for more help from Western powers. Helena Wilkinson has the latest.
This is the east of Ukraine in the Donbass region. It's one of the areas Russian forces have focused their firepower. Ukrainian soldiers are still holding out here, but the intense fighting goes on. Ukraine's army says it's running low on artillery shells. The Ukrainian governor of the Luhansk province claimed they could hold on to the besieged city of Severodonetsk if Western allies sent them enough long-range artillery. In Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, the European Commission president met with Ukraine's president, there to discuss Ukraine's request for EU membership. President Zelensky argued that the EU's future depended on letting his country in.
All of Europe is a target for Russia, we are sure of it, and Ukraine is just the first stage in this aggression. This is why a positive EU response to the Ukrainian application for membership can be a positive answer to the question of whether the European project has a future at all.
The EU will decide next week whether Ukraine should be given candidate status.
You have done a lot in strengthening the rule of law, but there still needs to be reforms implemented to fight corruption, for example.
Very fruitful talks with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, were held in Kyiv today. I am glad to note her sincerity. It is the European Commission that will prepare a conclusion about our application. Ukraine has provided all the necessary answers in a very short time, and it was done in a proper way.
In the south of the country, fighting has left villages devastated. Homes and churches have been destroyed. Ukraine now waits to find out if the EU will allow it to become a member. In the short term, though, the country says it needs more weapons and quickly from the West to be able to defend itself. Helena Wilkinson, BBC News.
Well, I've been getting the latest from Ukraine with our correspondent in Kyiv, Joe Inwood, who told me the latest on the fighting in the east.
The main development overnight, it seems, is a huge fire at the Azot chemical works. Now, this is a big industrial complex in the centre of the city, and it's one of the places that Ukrainian forces have fallen back to, along with, we understand, 800 civilians who are taking shelter there as well. Now, the whole city is under constant Russian bombardment, and in particular, this factory has been hit, and we understand there has been a huge fire, an explosion there, and many tons of oil have leaked out from radiators. We don't know the exact status of the chemical plant, exactly what the wider consequences could be, but of course this is raising many fears for the safety of the soldiers inside, but particularly of the civilians as well.
And Joe, we've heard so many pleas from Ukraine for more weapon supplies from the West, but now they're saying, in particular, they're running out of ammunition, of shells.
Yeah, and the battle in Severodonetsk is why this matters. This whole fight for the eastern Donbass region has become an artillery battle. Big guns pounding each other, pounding enemy positions, but particularly trying to hit the enemy guns. And we know, we've heard from a senior security official here, that the Russians are running out. They reckon they're outnumbered 10 or 15 to 1 in terms of the number of guns they have. The Russians are firing 10 times as many shells a day, 10 times as many rounds a day as the Ukrainians can manage. And so it doesn't matter how accurate you are when you're coming under that level of fire, you just need to have more. And the problem they're having is that we've got a lot of promises from the Western powers that they'll send more long-range artillery, particularly precision missile rocket artillery, but much of it isn't getting to the front lines. Now, of course, That is partly because it needs training. This is different equipment to that which the Ukrainians currently have and have used in the past. It's NATO standard, not old Soviet equipment. But that training, those delays, are costing the Ukrainians lives when it comes to the fight for places like Severodonetsk.
Yeah, and I was talking to the Ukrainian ambassador to London this week, and he was talking about, they're grateful particularly to Britain and to the United States for arms supplies, but less grateful really to countries like France and Germany, which they feel are sort of dragging their feet really and making promises, as you say, but not necessarily delivering.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of controversy around this. The suggestion, and we should say these are always suggestions, they're always accusations, but the suggestions that the Germans in particular are making promises, but they're not really following up on them, and therefore giving hope to the Ukrainians, giving the impression that they're getting the support they need, but then it's not actually being followed through on. And we're seeing this diplomatically as well. There have been the suggestions of splits start to emerge. A few days ago, or maybe a week ago or so, we saw Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of Germany, and President Macron of France having a call with President Putin. The suggestion was that they were trying to find a diplomatic solution here, when the Ukrainians say at the moment, given that the invasion is still in full swing, there really is no diplomatic solution here. So we are seeing some criticism of those two powers, but as you say, a lot of gratitude, particularly to the British and the Americans, for the amount of support that they are giving.
Joe Inwood there, our correspondent in Kyiv in Ukraine.